How should we deal with anger in difficult situations? Well, first is we should not repress anger. When, example, a member of the community that you're very close to suddenly expresses things that are against the community, and you feel that there is something wrong with what he's saying. Now, it's not right for you to then say, I'm not feeling angry, I'm not feeling angry, and yet you are feeling something inside. The question that you need to ask yourself is, okay, the anger is happening, I need to recognize it. What's the right way of expressing this anger inside of me? This brother is saying something wrong. I'm experiencing some kind of anger. What's the right way of dealing with it? So we should not repress our anger. So the next question is, when do we decide to express this anger? Well, we need to first consider, will expressing this anger correct the wrong that's been done? Sometimes it's possible for us to let go and saying, oh, maybe this brother is just having a bad day. Maybe this is not the right time to talk to him about it. The same kind of anger that you felt could be then controlled and say, okay, but I will have to talk to that brother about this because this is not right. And maybe at the right time, maybe the day later, with the same kind of experience of knowing that what he did was wrong, you can approach him and then tell him straightforward, bro, what you said yesterday was not good. You were saying things against the community. I think you better directly tell people your complaint. That's the right kind of expression of anger because it corrects something that's wrong. It's constructive. Often, our anger can help us persevere in facing difficult situations. I remember experiencing one of the persons in my men's group was having a difficult time with a particular area in his life, and I was frustrated that he was not changing. But this same frustration, I said, well, let this frustration lead me to patiently talk to him again and again about this area in his life. In this sense, anger can be a place where we can experience patience, endurance, and zeal. It's the same anger that's causing us to face something difficult and not change our mind about it and patiently work with it. My frustration regarding this area of life in my brother, I felt led me to patiently work with him and tell him, how can I help you? Let's continue to work on this area. Another way that we need to learn how to handle anger in a difficult situation is in broken relationships or in relationship difficulties. We end up rubbing each other in the wrong way in community. Now, the question that we often need to ask ourselves is, when we get irritated, how can we express our disappointments and frustrations in a way that it will still restore relationships? Because often we are tempted to just express our anger, but prevent our brother or sister from reconciling with us. So the aim of sometimes our irritations, that which will come and go, is when we get irritated, we definitely are experiencing something that's offending us, but we need to have the wisdom to say, okay, how do I deal with this anger? How do I express my irritation? And even in the expression of irritation, open the way for relationships to to be reconciled. How do we handle problems in the area of anger? First is one of the things that we need to do is this, to surrender our self-will to God. Often the cause of unrighteous anger or a wrong expression of anger is our unwillingness to submit our will to the Lord. Let me read to you a passage in the scriptures. Romans 8 verse 28. We know that in everything God works for the good with those who love Him, who are called according to His purpose. One of the causes of anger that eats us up or is expressed in a wrong way is our inability to trust in the Lord's ways. And often, what we need to do if we cannot correct a situation or we could not immediately change a brother or a sister we're working with, we need to include the patience and the willingness to say, Lord, this is a difficult situation. I am frustrated, but let your will be done. Because in the end, we need to believe what St. Paul is saying, that God works for the good of those who love Him and are trying to pursue what's good in their lives. Another way we deal with the problem of anger in our lives is to remove resentments. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 says something like this. Love is not arrogant or rude. Love does not insist in its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. Here in this passage where St. Paul reminds us of what it means to love, one of the things that he emphasizes is the need for us to remove any resentments. And what are resentments? They are things that we keep in our hearts against people who did something wrong to us. Of course we remember. Of course we remember things that were done to us, that affected us. But we should not allow those things to hinder us from saying, yes, this brother or sister did this to me, but I love them. And I will continue to build my relationship with them. Resentment is when we keep something in our hearts that prevent us from loving those we're supposed to love. And St. Paul tells us, if we love, we should not be resentful. Another way we also deal with anger in our life is to make sure that our life is in order. We lose our temper and we get angry when we're under pressure. External pressures like too much to do, too many commitments, even lack of exercise or lack of a balanced life can affect the way we relate to people and the way we experience anger. Those external forces of busyness of life and things that we're supposed to do can also affect us in such a way that even our internal order is affected. Sometimes we can be too much of a perfectionist, too much demand on people. And I think we also need to learn how not only to manage the external, but also the internal. And the internal could be the way we think, our attitude. And they often say attitude is a small thing, but that really makes a big difference. And the right kind of patience and choice to be less of a perfectionist of oneself or others can lessen the pressure and can even prevent us from experiencing too much anger in our hearts. Another way we deal with anger is the choice to face inhibitions. Sometimes we are hesitant, and because of our hesitation to do things that we're supposed to do, we end up getting frustrated. The key is making a choice to say to ourselves, God is in control. It's okay to make mistakes. and to have the confidence to just go and make a choice to do what you're supposed to do. Bottom line in this area of anger, it all boils down to the experience that many of us face in a day-to-day way. We like to take control of everything. But part of what would help us deal with the tendency to let anger control us is to have the willingness to say, God, you are in control of the universe. You will take care of me. Everything will work out right. All I need to do is patiently live my life in such a way that I'm confident that everything will work out well. As long as I am aware of what's frustrating me and making a choice to express it in the right way, in the end, you are in control. Anger is something good if it's directed towards the good and if it's under control. Be confident that even if we experience anger in our life, it could still lead us to what is good.